The unexpected and swift capitulation of France in the year 1940 is often simplified to a surprise attack through the Benelux region. However, fewer people pause to consider why France was so vulnerable to such an attack in the first place. Today, we will explore three major reasons contributing to France's defeat in 1940: economic woes, increasing civilian control over the military, and a conservative military philosophy. Additionally, we will evaluate the military equipment of both Germany and France to determine whether it played a significant role in the outcome of the clash between these two powers. Let's begin by examining the state of the French army from the end of World War I in 1918 up until 1936. This period is marked by a gradual decline in French military prowess. Immediately following the First World War, France experienced a brain drain, with many rich, educated, and experienced officers resigning. This is not surprising, as such phenomena often occur after major conflicts. However, many in France believed that a lasting peace had finally been achieved, largely trusting the League of Nations to prevent future wars. Consequently, massive military budget cuts ensued, and service training was gradually reduced from 3 years to just 1 year. These budget cuts were largely driven by France's dire economic situation. After World War I, France was nearly bankrupt, and due to the Great Depression in the 1930s, it never truly recovered financially. By 1936, the economic and financial situation in France was at an all-time low, as noted by Paul-Marie de Lagoras. These economic struggles, paired with Germany's resurgence as a major power, directly translated to a diminished French sphere of influence. Nations such as Czechoslovakia, Romania, and Yugoslavia, once allies and trade partners, began to look elsewhere. To complicate matters further, the problems within the French military apparatus were exacerbated by the civilian sector's increasingly tight hold on the army and bureaucracy. This situation arose from a political rift between the extreme left-wing Popular Front and the center-right coalition, with both sides vying to secure as many military positions as possible. This was done to prevent either side from using the military against the other. In short, loyalty was valued over competence, leading to bureaucrats, rather than military professionals, receiving promotions. As a result, a non-military bureaucracy run by civilians with minimal military experience and an absence of experienced generals led to a fundamentally flawed French military philosophy. In the 1930s, France constructed the Maginot Line along the Franco-German border as a defensive strategy. However, Fomo Mika aptly described the Maginot Line as a formidable barrier, not so much against the German army, but rather against French understanding of modern warfare. The line was hailed as impenetrable, but much like the Titanic being unsinkable, it had vulnerabilities. In 1940, Hitler's forces were able to breach the line through the Ardennes forest, as the French mistakenly believed the rough terrain would deter any German tank attacks. Once again, the issue lay in military philosophy. Standard military strategy dictates that to win, one needs a superior force. The French interpreted this to mean maintaining superior strength across the entire front line. In contrast, the Germans concentrated their strength at 1 or 2 carefully selected points, launching aggressive attacks using fast, light vehicles, dive bombers, and fighters in unison. Having compared French and German military philosophies, let's now examine their military equipment to understand its impact on the outcome of their conflict. It can be argued that in some ways, French infantry was superior to German infantry. The French had superior numbers and supply lines, and contrary to prevailing thought, were more motorized and equipped with modern gear than the Wehrmacht. Theoretically, French armor should have also enjoyed an advantage over its German counterpart. The French SHB-1 Abyss heavy tank was virtually impenetrable from the front, and the Soma S-35, a medium tank, had more durable armor than the German panzers. However, one could contend that Germany used its tanks more effectively. German tank battalions consisted of independent, lightly armored tank divisions. Their speed was leveraged to surprise the French. The Germans also utilized wireless technology, equipping each tank with radio receivers to relay and mobilize battalions at a speed the French, who relied on flags instead of radios, could not match. As for the air forces, the French Armée de l'Air was at a numerical disadvantage despite high levels of aircraft production. This was largely because the French had very few spare parts for their aircraft, preventing them from preparing or repairing planes for service as quickly as the Germans. Nonetheless, French fighters generally outperformed their German adversaries, with 2 German fighters being downed for every 1 French fighter. Overall, it is clear that France held a slight advantage regarding military equipment. However, this advantage was completely negated by poor military philosophy. The persistence of this faulty philosophy should not be surprising, given the brain drain discussed earlier. Fundamentally, what France lacked was imagination, innovation, and a willingness to learn from the First World War. The French were abruptly awakened from a prolonged peace dream, lulled by a false sense of security provided by the League of Nations. In conclusion, while France may have had some advantages in terms of military equipment, its defeat in 1940 was largely a result of economic hardships, increased civilian control over the military, and a conservative military philosophy. These factors combined to leave France vulnerable to a surprise attack and ultimately contributed to the swift German victory. If you enjoyed this content, visit our channel for more stories like this. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Also, let us know in the comments where you are watching from.